Coleman. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and unto the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. O God of all times and all seasons, including this harvest season when once again we are reminded of your many bounties, of peanuts and potatoes and pumpkins. We remain grateful for gifts received, for opportunities provided. May we respect the richness of all that surrounds us. May we not take for granted the beauty of this town, the beauty of its people and its location. May we build upon our heritage of sharing the blessings we have received. We open this meeting in your presence, aware of our many shortcomings, our angers, our frustrations, our mixed feelings. Grant us as a town and as a council the strength to work together rather than as individuals with self-agendas. Grant us confidence in our ability to make worthy and wise decisions. Grant us compassion in our deliberations that our difficult choices may be fair. You are the vine, we are the branches. May we always abide in the fertile soil of your love, that we might bear the fruits of kindness, of respect, and of gratitude. Amen.
Amen. Okay, next is approval of the minutes for our special meeting on September the 25th and the regular meeting of the 12th of September. So, okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next is public comment, and please remember that the comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. And the first on our agenda is John Powell.
I have a concern, so I'm here. My name is John Powell. I'm a retired registered professional hydrogeologist. Worked for the U.S. Geological Survey for a long time. My expertise is in groundwater chemistry, aquifers, and that kind of stuff. I was at the last meeting, public meeting, and there was a gentleman here from a developer that gave a presentation. And for me, and maybe Councilman Dixon, maybe Councilman Miller, it was like deja vu all over again. 15 to 18 years ago, the town was under siege by proposals of developers that would have increased the population of Edenton by 2, maybe 3 times by this date if those things had happened. The issue for me is groundwater as a resource for drinking water. The aquifers are salty to the east and fresh to the west. In between is a saltwater freshwater interface where the freshwater rides up over the heavier saltwater, and you're hearing that down in New Orleans, and it actually happens in a river too. Well, in between those two extremes, salt and fresh, is the saltwater freshwater interface, and that's where Edenton is located. So our aquifer is salty to the east and fresh to the west, and we're right in the middle of it. I think one point I want to make is that development by whomever has to be to scale to fit the community and the natural resources. And if you take the development saga from the man talked about 2 weeks ago, that was about 150 units. Throw in the creamery, which is, I presume is already permitted, was about 35 units. Throw in the RV park, say it's 10, 12 units because it's not full all the time, you're looking at about 200 new units. And if you figure 3 people per unit, that's 600 people. Now, the developers will tell you that 60 to 80 gallons a day per person. And that's an accurate metric for them because they're measuring the water going through your meter. That's of no value to us. What's value to us is how much you have to pump out of the ground. And using real data from Edenton, that number is about 120 gallons a day per person. So if you add another 600 people, that's about 60, 70,000 gallons per day. My point being, you're going to increase the pumpage dramatically. And 2 of our 4 wells have already pumped undrinkable salt water at one time or another. So we've got a very delicate resource. Now, if you subtract the bigger development saga from the other 2, then you're looking at about 50 units, which says 150 people, and it's 15 these are all back of the envelope calculations, but they ain't far off. That's maybe 15 to 18,000 gallons a day, or about a 3% increase. And that seems, to me, reasonable. So, back in the day when Deja Vu started, the town hired Dr. Richard Spruill from ECU, and he came up with a thoughtful, thorough report. And I know Corey knows about this report. And my concern is that we may not be heeding the recommendations of this report. He's got some good recommendations, like new wells and that sort of thing. It's very thoughtful, very important. If the development gets out of scale, you can't fix it next week. You can't fix it next month. You can't fix it next year. Because you got to either drill wells or come up with $15 million for a reverse osmosis plant. So I've got this available. Anybody wants to look at it, I can explain anything that you might not be familiar with. Let's pay attention to this thing going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next is John Grant.
Thank you. First of all, I just wanted to thank members of council and the town of Edenton who came to my wife's open house. As you all know, she opened a new business on King Street, and the grand opening was on the 30th. And I was happy to see the turnout from the town. It's good to know that the town and town council supports new businesses. I also want to tell you all how much I appreciate the Power Week and now the Fire Week that you all have done. It's good to get, knowledge out there and see the faces of the people who do the jobs for us every day. In relation to Fire Week, I did have one quick follow-up question that I've asked a couple times. In regards to the Hinton, is there a fire suppression system in place yet?
And we're going to talk about that a little bit more during items considered timely and important. Short answer, no, but I do have an update on your original questions from the last meeting.
Perfect. And is there any time frame on when they are going to have the public meeting they said they were going to have back in March?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much.
Okay, next is Lori Dablo.
Thank you for the opportunity to first of all, I want to commend Councilman Dixon for an article. I know that's a surprise probably. But in a recent article in the Daily Advance, all of the candidates who are running for election and in some cases re-election were asked what they would do about the Hinton Hotel stalemate, I'm paraphrasing. whether there's a role that the town can play to speed up progress. And I would like to share with you, I don't want to take it out of context, so I'm going to share the whole thing, the whole quote from you. The town needs to support the redevelopment of the Edenton Hotel in any way possible. It has been a visual scar in Edenton's historic district ever since Chowan County moved the county offices out of the county, or out of the building, sorry. The town should enforce all ordinances currently available to make sure the property is cleaned up and ready for development. I have asked the town manager to make sure that Edenton has all laws in place to ensure that our local officials have the most leverage possible to force the developer to take care of the property. I'm also helping to appeal to sources like Main Street America and National Trust for Historic Preservation to help Edenton in its quest for a downtown boutique hotel. Amen. The Trust has a wonderful program called Historic Hotels of America, which helps set up and run small boutique hotels. The town also needs to help seek alternative sources of funding through grants and other loans if requested by the developer. So, as a person who has the vantage point of being across the street from the Hotel Edenton, our, as you know, our place of business as well as our residence is directly across the street, I've had the vantage point of watching the decay of that building in the 3 years that we've been here really move forward. The bricks, there's a brick seam on the east side of the building facing East King Street that has visibly become more bulging and misfitting. The windows, some of which are wide open, are letting in the summer heat and humidity. The backside, the little patch that they did a power wash on in the front looks better, but all other sides of that building are subject to mold and mildew and on and on. So in regard to your quote, I keep asking this question. We have this ordinance on the books in Edenton, prevention of demolition by neglect. It's 150.138. Demolition by neglect is defined as a situation in which a property owner or others having legal possession, custody, or control of a property allow the condition of a property located in the town's historic district to suffer such deterioration, potentially beyond the point of repair, as to threaten the structural integrity of the structure or its relevant architectural detail to a degree that the structure and its character may be potentially lost to current and future generations. My question just is this. At what point does this body determine that it is appropriate to act on that ordinance? It clearly is decaying and getting closer and closer to demolition by decay by the day. What is the line? What's the criteria? How much more does that poor hotel have to suffer before we act on that? Thank you.
Okay, that was all the people that had signed up to speak, so we'll move on. And this time we have a special presentation on St. Vincent de Paul. Wendy McGarth.
Thank you. Mayor, Councilman, it's an honor to be here. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and so I thank you for your time today. St. Vincent de Paul is an organization that started in 1833 by a bunch of actually 6 town council people. But let me just back up a little bit and introduce myself. I'm Wendy McGrath. I'm a Navy veteran. I'm retired from federal service. My husband and I moved to Edenton, beautiful Edenton, 3 years ago during COVID. I retired to the church, which brought me to St. Vincent de Paul. So today I'm going to give you a brief overview on who we are, what we stand for, what we are doing, how we are doing it, and how you can help us. Our founder, next slide please, I'm sorry. Our founder, Frederick Ozanam, was a college student in Paris in 1833, and he and 5 other students founded St. Vincent de Paul. Then and now, we are a network of lay people and friends inspired by holiness to serve those in need. We're named after the patron, St. Vincent de Paul, who is known as the Apostle of Charity. A mere 12 years later, the Society of St. Vincent de Paul crossed over to the United States and was founded in St. Louis, Missouri. Next slide, please. Our structure is much like any other structure. We have a hierarchy. It's an international organization. We're in 155 countries. So our national office is in St. Louis. We have an archdiocesan office in Atlanta, and our district council is in Raleigh. We are one of 4,500 conferences throughout the United States, all working to help the needy and the poor. But we are primarily a Catholic lay organization. We maintain a close relationship with the Catholic Church. We exemplify their beliefs and their values. But our society is unique in that it's legally autonomous. And what does that mean? We have a covenantal agreement with St. Anne Catholic Church. We use their address, we use their phone line, we use their address, we hold our meetings there. But we have a separate 501c3 as a nonprofit organization. We have our own EIN and our own article of incorporation with the North Carolina Secretary of State. Next slide, please. So this is a new nonprofit. How are we different? What makes us different than any other nonprofit? We are a faith-first organization. We work in prayerful unity to help those in need. We serve people in need. I'm going to read this slide because these are all very important words. We serve people in need regardless of creed, ethnic or social background, health, gender, citizenship, or political opinions or affiliations. We are enabled to help the poor spontaneously and more effectively, free from excessive bureaucracy. I retired from federal service. I know what red tape is, and we don't have any of that. Vincentians, or our 12 members that form St. Anne St. Vincent de Paul, offer tangible assistance to those in need on a person-to-person basis during a home visit, and I will talk more about that later. Our essential elements together, the 12 of us come together in spirituality and friendship, and then we go out together in service to the poor. Next slide, please. So we have a large service area, as you can see on here. One more. There you go. So I want to bring your attention to all these statistics are from the U.S. Census Bureau. Little disclaimer. I don't know if these are in fact actual facts for Chowan or these surrounding counties. But we are St. Anne, St. Vincent de Paul, and all of our parishioners live in these counties. We have a mission church in Tyrrell County. I'm not from here, so I hope I pronounced that correctly. And we have parishioners in Washington, Bertie, Chowan, and Perquimans. We have some parishioners up in Elizabeth City, but they are resource rich up there. But if our parishioners needed help, we would certainly help them out. We've received calls from Pitt County, Beaufort County, Martin County, and what we do, if we can't help them, we provide them with another resource that they can call and get help from. That is how our service area was selected. The nearest St. Vincent de Paul from here is down in Beaufort County, actually. Next slide, please. So how do we do this without any bureaucracy? So our 12 volunteers, we have a process that is contained in our bylaws that are approved up through national. And we're no different than the many St. Vincent de Paul conferences in the United States. Somebody in need gives us a call. We have a person write down their information, what's their name, phone number, what's their critical assistance that they need, and it's provided to our home visit lead. Our home visit lead then assigns a two-person team, 2 women if they're going to see a woman, a man and a woman if they're going to see a couple, or if there's going to be a male in the home on the visit. And they go out and they ask very sensitive questions. But before we enter that home, we pray. And when we go in that home, Jesus is the first one through the door, and we pray with that family after they tell us what they need. What's so special about this home visit? We're not receiving a fax or an email telling us about themselves and what their problem is. We're actually on their turf in their home where they feel most comfortable telling us about their current situation. And we go in compassionately, and we're able to use all of the senses that God gave us to decide if this person is in crisis, if they need more than what they're asking for or less than what they're asking for. We have a cap on what we provide, although we have on several occasions voted to go over that cap. We receive a bill, we verify the bill from them, and then the home team is responsible to come back and brief the other 10 Vincentians, and then we decide as a group what we're going to do. We are a consensus-run organization, not a majority, but a consensus. So we will talk amongst each other, and we all have to be in agreement on how best to take care of the neighbor. And it may be to pay the bill, it may be not to pay the bill, but mentor them to get them to another resource or something like that. But that's how we do it. We ask sensitive questions, listen, pray, hug, and offer hope. More than anything, we offer hope to these individuals. Next slide, please. So what is our impact on the community? And I don't know if you can see this, but right up top there, St. Vincent de Paul Assistance through October 9th. And I want to tell you, we took one call in April, and in June, we started full force helping people in these 5 counties. Up through August, all of the support was in Chowan County. When the town of Edenton published their flyer that St. Vincent de Paul would help with utilities, since then, we've been able to help people in all 5 counties. In every county that we serve, we have helped people in need and given $22,116 to people in need. And how do we do that, or what makes that up? So we've paid 25 bills and utilities for $6,855. We've paid 11 neighbors' rent, arrears and current, got them caught up for $4,628. We've provided hotels for homeless people in the heat of this summer to the tune of $1,560. And the other big one here is in kind, this $5,663. This comes from people that just have great servant hearts. And it includes, we've been from Trader's Furniture. I called everybody to see if I could find beds for some children. And a lot of people are like, no, we can't help you. No, we can't help you. This gentleman at Trader's, he said, oh, we don't really do that. But he just started talking to me and asking me some questions. And we just had a nice conversation. And at the end, he said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to donate 2 beds for you. So I'm plugging that business over there. I don't know if that's allowed, but I'm doing it anyway. So beds, furniture, rooms, gas, food, transitional housing is huge. I don't know if you know that homelessness is prevalent in this town. So, and I'm not talking about the homelessness because of psychological or mental illness. I'm talking about people whose families have thrown them out. And it's not just the ones that are on the streets. It's the sheds that you drive by, really, some nice homes. And there's family members living in a shed without any electric, water, heat, or air conditioning. And they've called us for help. And the conditions are horrible. I want to tell you the conditions are horrible. A large reason for homelessness here is because of poor family relations. And so the families are kicking them out for whatever reasons. But some other observations that I've had is jobs here are limited. And this is apolitical. You can do with it what you want. Just some observations from our team. Jobs here are limited. The jobs, a lot of them that we have, do not support an individual or a family trying to live in this community. Affordable housing is scarce. If we have a mom call us and she's got children, we work really, really hard to keep her in that home because we know if she loses it, there's no place for her to go. There's a wait list of 1 to 2 years for housing, for Section 8 housing. EIC is great but scarce because they only open up every once in a while. And the need is great here, folks. The benefits have decreased. Say what you will about the money they got for COVID. That's past history. We're looking at it now. People that used to get $200, $300 Now they're getting $23. The money is scarce. So, and electric fees are cumbersome. I don't know how many electrical fees we've paid, because I haven't been tracking it, and that's my fault, but I'm gonna start tracking it moving forward. Because if somebody calls us for a $363 electric bill, and we come in to pay it, and we have to pay another $100, $25, well, the 5% first, and then the $25 and the $75 reconnect fee, it's a burden for these folks. And a lot of these folks are literally having to decide, do I pay my car payment so I can go to work, or do I pay my utilities? Do I pay my child care, or do I buy food? The decisions that they're having to make are pretty impressive. I also want to toot our horn a bit. We've had 4 homeless people in the community. 2 of them have moved on. They're no longer homeless. They've got jobs. They're working, and we have been able to help them in that. We have another young lady who's currently in transition. She is working hard to get back on her feet, and we applaud her for that. And we have a homeless family that just came into town. The mom grew up here, and they came back here, and they're homeless, and they're currently in transitional housing, and they're both looking for work right now. So that's the impact that we've had on the community to date. Next slide, please. We haven't done it alone. So there's a lot of wonderful resources in this town. There's a lot of St. Vincent de Paul's that have clothing and food pantries. We don't need to do that because those are already established here. And what you see here is who we've teamed with in leveraging these local partnerships. We've worked with Catholic Charities, Emergency Aid, the Clothes Closet. North Carolina Serves helped us to get a veteran place. We had to take him all the way to Charlotte because there's no shelters around here. I don't know if everybody's aware of that. There's just no place for these folks to go. The Edenton Food Pantry has been great. Our friends at the Baptist Church have been so very, very helpful, as have a couple other churches in the area. But it's not enough. So what we're going to do beginning early next year is you can call it what you will, I'm going to call it a prayer breakfast, but I'm hoping that some of you will come join us. We want to get all the churches together, everybody that provides services to the needy, and we're going to, what are our strengths and weaknesses? And we're going to have a plan so that when somebody comes to us, we can direct them. It's not just a burden of St. Vincent de Paul, it's a community working together. So, and I'm very excited about that. So we have a gap, and we have some gaps, and I think we can fix them. We can overcome them. Next slide, please. So 100% of our funding comes from St. Anne parishioners. We also have Vincentians that donate things, and other St. Vincent de Paul conferences. So we as a conference are not supposed to hoard. If we have more money than what we anticipate spending in our budget quarterly, we are required by our rule to give it to another needy conference. So I love that idea, and we've received over $2,000 in donations from other conferences in North Carolina and South Carolina to help people in our community, in your community, so that they can get back on their feet. We have a minimal overhead. Our overhead is $270, and we pay that for insurance. That's what our insurance is a year. Nobody gets paid here. We all do it because of our love for mankind and our love through Christ. We have a St. Vincent de Paul fundraiser coming up, a cookbook, and I will be knocking on doors to see if we can put it in the local stores so that we can raise some extra money. Next year we're having a Friends of the Poor walk. We're hoping to have most of Eastern Carolina come to Edenton and walk through historic downtown for that. And then another way that we do it is via direct requests to the public and other civic organizations that I've been briefing, and grants. We have to have we have to display what we've done. We have to have a track record, and we're getting there. So those grants, we'll be applying for those grants soon. Next slide, please. So I said before, and I'll say it again, the need here is great. There's a Bible verse that says, the harvest is plentiful and the labors are few. So there is a great need in this community. I don't want to say there's a divide in their community between the have and have-nots, but there is a great need in this community, and I'm hoping that everyone can help us with that. So what do we want from you? Prayers. We need prayers for these people and for our organization. first and foremost. Additional Vincentians can advocate for us and continuing contributions. Next slide, please. So we have different memberships. You can be an active member, and those are generally lay Catholics. You're all in, you're doing everything, you're doing home visits, you're just going to all the meetings and everything. Or we have associate members, and these are people that they don't have to help full-time. They want to help in the community, and they can be associate members. They can answer phones. If you have a talent for writing grants or helping with communicating, getting our word out, we need your help. We don't just need money. We need time and treasure. A lot of times, just sitting with the neighbors and praying with them and listening to them helps them a very great deal. Next slide, please. So in summary, I want to reiterate that we are a faith-based organization. We serve Chowan and 4 surrounding counties. We respond spiritually, resourcefully, quickly to those in need. Our membership is open to anyone. We have a very low overhead, which allows us to do a lot more with the money that we're given. And we need financial support to continue to serve those in need in Edenton. Thank you for your time. I know I was a former air traffic controller, so I talk really fast. I was told I had 10 to 15 minutes, so I try to keep it within there. But any questions? Yes?
Do you handle most of your work through referrals, or can individual citizens come to St. Anne's and request a service?
That's such a great question, Craig. So we, with the advertising that the city has done and through the paper, we've gotten a lot more, but a lot of people do call the churches. And we had an ecumenical meeting with a lot of the churches. And Pat at Emergency Aid actually organized this. And so we have a lot of people referred to us from the churches. We've had referrals from town council members. We've had referrals from DSS, from EIC. So they're starting to come in. As word gets around, we get more and more referrals. We have a hotline, and on the table out there is a St. Vincent de Paul flyer. There's also a card, and I recommend taking a card. If you see somebody that looks like they're struggling, just give them a card and say, hey, maybe these people can help you. And it's, no skin off. Just give them a smile, maybe the first one they've had in weeks. Just smile at them and ask them if they need some help to call this number. I also have some, I'm not asking for money from the town, of course, but there's some donation envelopes out there as well. That's a really good question, Craig.
Are you trying to get your word out to the community
Yes.
that you exist? Because
Yes.
I think a lot of citizens don't even know this exists.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Well, and I'm going to tell you one of the things that I didn't mention for time. We have 76 cases, and 62 of them are closed. We've helped over 104 people in this community, and that includes families as well. Lots of single mommies with babies that need help. A lot of women between the ages of 30 and 50 that have no kids. They're really struggling because they don't qualify for any help. Okay, so they're really struggling as well.
It's not a question, but I'd just like to thank you and your group for the positive work that y'all are doing here at Edenton.
Thank you, sir.
Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Contact information. This is my personal information. I give it to neighbors. They know we're not a one and done, in and out. We're building a relationship with these folks. We stay in touch with them, make sure they're staying on track. So that's my personal number. Call me anytime, and that's our hotline. Please feel free to use it for anyone that you think needs help.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Okay, next is our Mayor's Task Force update, and David Herlong.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I guess I'd like to thank you for getting this kicked off a couple of years ago. We have many members here. If anybody's on the task force, you raise your hand, let them know we've got, come on, hands up. Stop talking, hands up. Now you can sit down, put your hands up. Okay. Thank you.
That's good.
That's good. I've got 4 topic areas I want to cover today that we've been working on, 3 in particular, and 1 new one. First off, this Saturday we're having our next community litter pickup from 9 o'clock. We're going to meet behind the fire station over on Park Street. I'd like to invite all the council members, any council candidates for the upcoming election, businesses, youth, civic groups, Many hands makes light work. So we're planning on no longer than 3 hour. Last time we've been done an hour and a half or two typically. So hopefully that holds up. We've had some groups volunteer to take certain areas, and then the rest of the folks will assign as we need to a particular area. The town's going to provide picker-uppers, bags, safety vests. We encourage everyone to bring their own gloves. The town will be responsible for disposing of the litter that's collected. And I said we've had some very successful efforts in the past. I'm going to talk a little bit more about litter later in this presentation. Next is recycling. We used to have a recycling program here. It ended for a variety of reasons, but we're getting ready to restart it. We've received a trailer dedicated to collect the recycled materials. We have a contract with a company in Virginia that will take them. There'll be certain things they take, certain things they don't take. No glass, no pizza boxes. But there'll be information put out through all the various media and door hangers. You may have already received one that talks about what can go in the recycle bin. Hopefully you all have a blue bin. Who has a blue bin hanging around their house? Everybody? Oh. Ooh. Okay, so if you don't, you need to contact the town. There are a few available, and hopefully eventually everybody has one. It will be dedicated to recycling. If people put stuff in there that's not recyclable, they will find out about that. And we'll hopefully get everybody on board. Pickup day will be on Wednesdays. Information about the actual start date will be coming soon, hopefully in the next month or so. All right, resilience program. That's a big word. It's part of the Resilient Coastal Communities Program, which is part of the Division of Coastal Management. Edenton's gotten involved with this. They've come to us. They're going to be coming to us with a request. There's going to be 2 phases to the program. One is an engagement, community engagement, risk vulnerability assessment. It's assessing the needs. What are our needs? We'll look at all kinds of hazards, flooding, storm surge, sea level rise, and other relevant hazards such as wind and erosion. They're looking across the state, particularly here in the east, where we're vulnerable to these types of hazards, to see what can be done to add more resilience to help in recovery efforts after an event. The second phase will be, we'll identify projects that need to be done. This is where the money comes in. So they'll be asked for a resiliency strategy, a resilient strategy that will include structural and non-structural. So we have an infrastructure piece, and then there'll be a policy piece that helps to support the actual work to be done. And at least one natural or naturally based component, maybe improving artificial wetlands or creating better wetlands to help runoff and store flooding. Maybe some new natural type barriers to help prevent storm surge. And all these things will come out during the initial work to identify what the needs are. There'll be a lot more on this coming up soon as this develops. This is a new piece that's come to us, so we're in the very early stages. Okay, back to litter. Nobody likes it. Everybody sees it. We all know about it. That's probably what prompted the mayor to kick this thing off in the first place. And you know, this is a human behavior problem as much as anything. So we've talked about a lot of strategies to encourage people not to litter, you know, signs. There is a fine that goes along with litter. How it's enforceable or not is another whole discussion piece. So what we're trying to do is, one idea we're working with is adopt a street. You've seen adopt a highway signs everywhere. We want to work with businesses, local groups to adopt the street. This is still being fleshed out, but what we want to do is get a pride and ownership. You know, I live here, this is my area, I'm going to clean up litter, I don't like it, and hopefully that can get passed on to the neighbor. And then that builds up to a whole town vision of, we really want to keep our place nice and neat. It's been an ongoing problem for a long time, and across the nation for years. I mean, you remember the Chief Cody Indian ad? You remember Don't Mess with Texas? There's been a number of large campaigns that have put this out. Hopefully we can start street by street, block by block in this town. And we're looking at ways to build partnerships to instill pride. I think that's really the answer here, along with encouraging businesses to do what they can and let it be known that we don't appreciate litter in our town so that we can still remain the prettiest town in the South. Are there any questions?
I think the Adopt a Ramp program is working pretty good, keeping people busy, but as soon as one ramp is cleaned up, another ramp needs attention. But I think there's some progress being made on the Adopt a Ramp program out on the highway.
And one of the interesting facts about that is, of the 4 major on-ramps of 17, only 1 is in the town limit. So we will be hopefully going to the county, encouraging them to participate and join us in. But we want to take care of our own issue here first, get some programs in place, then go out and ask others to participate. We are interested in what Dick Meyer's been trying to do. We get updates from time to time. We are a separate program from that, but hopefully his efforts and program and ours will result in a neater, cleaner town.
David, not a question, but just like Councilman Bond thanked Wendy earlier, appreciate your efforts on this. It's been an ongoing concern of council, and I know it's not an easy task that you guys have, but many thanks for what you're trying to do.
And I think I speak on behalf of the task force. We'd like to thank Roger Coleman for shepherding this through. He's been a great resource and interface with the town. We're going to miss him, but we will soldier on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. We appreciate your coming forth with that. It's something that we're all concerned about, and we need to be more concerned and get the word out that we're just not going to tolerate that type of behavior. And it's just gotten out of hand. Okay, moving on, we'll now go to our committee reports, and the first one is the Administrative Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman High.
Mayor Sallins, as always, thank you. We've got 2 items we need to report on tonight. The first one is employee certification tables. A few months ago, Town Manager Corey Gooden tasked our department heads to take a look at our existing policies regarding training and certification, and they came up with a proposal that we discussed back on September 25th at our committee meetings. And in short summary, the proposed certification tables created 3 different levels of certifications, and depending on which type of level our employees chose to have continuing education, they would have different one-time bonuses. And the Human Relations Director, Tammy Woodley, and also Town Manager Gooden feels like there's a benefit to having, and we do too, a highly trained workforce for the town. And there's also, in these different levels and with these bonuses, also a minimum requirement of 6 hours annually for all of our employees. And we've got a program where we do lunch and learn and things of that sort. And so the whole goal is to have a better trained sales force, employee force, and also to reward them for taking the extra effort. So this came before the Administrative Committee on September 25th with a recommendation from Tammy Woodley and Corey that we adopted, and the Administrative Committee moved it forward to tonight with the same recommendation. So I would put that in form of a motion that we approve these new employee certification tables.
Second, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Hank. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from anybody? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And Mayor, the second item that we have for consideration is a new social media and news media policy, and I termed it a new policy, but it would be the first time we've ever had this policy, and certainly in this day and age, we feel like that's something that's needed. But I would like to give thanks to Tyler Newman, our Public Information Officer, for taking the time to draft this social media and news media policy. The policy will help our staff and administration in governing our use of our social media pages, which include Facebook, Instagram, and our website. It also will give guidance to our employees on their own personal use of social media, give us guidance on how to deal with the news media, and also give us guidance on how we disseminate information to the general public. Tyler and Corey both feel it's a needed policy, and I tend to agree. They gave the recommendation that we approve this. The administrative committee also gives the same recommendation, and so I would put it in the form of a motion that we approve the new social media and news media policy.
Second.
Did we get a second? Yeah, okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And I would like to add to that, I had a lady stop me on the street this afternoon and tell me what a good job that Tyler was doing, and I concur with that. I think he's doing a good job with that. So.
And Mayor, I think it's interesting. I've received the same comments, and I thought the comments would be restricted to those that are much younger than all of us sitting up here. But I've seen all across the age demographic that people like the timeliness of the information they're seeing via social media. So I've seen the same thing.
Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And Mayor, that concludes our business. Thank you as always.
Thank you, sir. All right, the next is our Finance Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Dixon.
We have one thing on tonight. We all learned what All-Tech Digger Derek was last
We did.
meetings. And Truist, we've got a finance $230,699, which is a total loan amount. Truist came back with the best interest rate, which is 5.38% for a period of 5 years. And I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, the next is, under new business, is a resolution for the electric department backyard machine financing. And Cordy, you will do that, or Virginia?
Yes, sir. That's fine. Virginia's here with us in case we miss anything. Just like any other lending that the town acquires for any type of equipment or other assets. The resolution that was included tonight is something that's the formal acceptance process. The resolution presented, as Councilman Dixon stated, was included in the packet for the term of 5 years at a rate of 5.38 and at a total financed amount of $230,699. This resolution will allow us to enter into this agreement and accept that funding from Truist. And Virginia and I are here to answer any questions about that, but if there are none, this will solidify that.
Any questions or comments?
How soon does the equipment arrive if upon the?
I do not remember the exact time frame. You know, the last time we spoke with the vendors back during the budget process. I think Hunter has provided them with an update that we had gotten to this point, and we'd be able to at least have a letter of intent ready tomorrow. At that point, we'll have a better idea. Virginia, do you have any idea on time frame?
I was thinking he said maybe next June.
Next June? What company are we getting it from?
All-Tech.
All-Tech. Any further questions or comments?
Do we need a motion?
We do. Action is required.
Mayor, I would move that we pass this resolution regarding the backyard machine finance.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You may order your machine. All right, the next is a special events ordinance update for parades and pickets. Corey?
Yes, sir, thank you. Dwayne was not able to join us tonight, and I don't mind speaking on behalf of this. So if you remember back in the spring, we had reviewed a lot of the town applications, a lot of things for major special use for different events downtowns, for park reservations, things of that nature. And at that time, we had updated everything for the planning of these events for town staff to represent roughly 30 days ahead of time. So we had time to align any policing, any ambassadors, any of our public works staff that maybe need to be there for the event to help with trash pickup or any cleanup afterwards. One of the things that we had overlooked during this time, and it wasn't really brought to light until a recent kind of hiccup we had with one of the parades, is we missed updating the parade ordinance as well as the picket ordinance to match what we did earlier this year. And simply all we're asking, if you noted in the packet, most of the changes were included in yellow for these. And all we're asking is for our language to be consistent with what we did before. And for parades, we're asking that we have at least a minimum of a 30-day time period on those permits to allow us to plan accordingly for the street closures and everything that comes with that. And one of the things that we're asking here also is just to set a 72-hour time limit on the picket and/or demonstrations. And that is consistent in all of the ordinances as well as both of the forms that we receive. We don't have any problems with the picket demonstrations. We just wanted to give us more than 24 hours to have notice, and we just simply asked for 3 days there, but we are asking for at least 30 days on parades because they are rather involved.
Okay, all right.
Mayor,
Thank you, Corey.
I make a motion that we approve the update.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
A couple of questions on just looking at it. Yeah, I know the difference between a parade and a demonstration in my mind, but it's hard to read this and see a whole lot of difference. The insurance is the same, and the forms are almost exactly the same. Could tell me how you see the difference on that? It doesn't seem quite clear in this presentation.
A parade for us would be any instance where we have to close the street, and it's usually hosted by someone, and anytime anything like that happens, it still occurs on the street right of way where we request that liability piece. Pickets, if in any type of park area or anything like that, that's not applicable. But if someone wanted to do a picket or demonstration where there was a street closure, for instance, like what we had a couple years back, where we had a picket demonstration from Shalom Church down to the waterfront. And so if you choose to do the picket on the streets right of way, then you still have that same insurance clause as if you were doing a parade, just for liability purposes. We don't rarely have pickets or demonstrations that are on the streets. Most of ours are within, just town-owned properties that doesn't have that insurance clause. And that's why that language is included in there, because you could demonstrate on the street if you so choose.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. The next is the NIBIN contract agreement. And Corey, I'll ask you to
Thank
go
you,
over that,
Mayor.
please.
Chief King and I have been working through this, so we received a contractual agreement from the Rocky Mount Police Department at the beginning of this month. We were very excited to see this. The NIBIN system is what the town currently uses for any type of firearms testing, as well as ammunition or shell casing testing for forensics. Rocky Mount had shared with us at the beginning of the year, prior to this most recent fiscal year budget, that they would be going after a second piece of equipment. That way they would have two on site to help expedite the process when some of their surrounding law enforcement agencies come to them to have firearms or shell casings tested. That's key for us because it looks on a local, regional, statewide, and national level. We had been waiting some time for this contract to come through. They've gotten most of what they needed together. This is simply an agreement for us showing our letter of support and entering into that agreement with them to be able to continue to use the second piece of equipment just like we do the first. And one thing they had asked that we had pre-budgeted for was a $2,500 commitment to help with some of the cost share around that and some of the training that may come from that if there's any type of update from the old system. Both will still be in place. There's no budget amendment required for this. We have shared this contract agreement with the town attorney, which he has reviewed and not found any issues from a liability standpoint for the town. And Chief King and I both recommend that the council consider the agreement and recommend that it's approved as presented.
And that's a one-time $2,500.
Yes, sir.
Is that an annual event? Is that only,
Just
It's
One
one
time.
$2,500.
okay, so
And
there's
Corey,
no,
yeah, Corey,
Nope.
it's
ahead.
much needed, certainly, and I think you've already answered this question, but over and above the 2,500 that's already been budgeted, there's no budget implications.
That's right.
Right.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Is that what you?
that's my
Yeah,
question.
I'm sorry.
Any further questions or comments? And did you make
I'll make a motion, yep.
okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I just want to say I appreciate Chief King's involvement and for pushing this.
And the next is a recycling contract from Public Works. And Corey, I'll ask you to go over that if you will.
Thank you, Mayor. As a result of all the efforts with the task force, as well as Tyler, our public works staff, and most of the administration, we've worked through all but the final few details. If you had taken a look at your packet, I included the TFC recycling contract that we received within the last 30 days. I did share this with our town attorney for review. There are about 5 questions that are left, not from the attorney, but from myself, just some clerical things that I would like to have further guidance on. The lady that we've been dealing with from TFC is actually out, so we hadn't got those responses yet. But just a couple things to share is that the pricing for us per ton is looking at roughly $120 per ton. That's recyclables with glass versus $115 per ton without glass. There were some key things here to take a look at as far as contamination levels. There are additional charges of that, or for that, of $125 per ton. Currently, as David said earlier, the town will not be accepting any glass in these recyclable materials. We're going to continue to work with the task force to try to find an option for the glass at this point, but we at least want to get this process going. And so my one update from Public Works is that David indicated that we've issued 100 new recycle cans, and there are over 50 waiting to be delivered. And at this time, we've got an estimate of about 800 cans within our system. We're very glad to share that with the group as well as the council. A lot of input has been received from the public, a lot of our output on the website or social media. For us to have gotten 150 new cans and to find that there were so many already in the system, that's a huge accomplishment. And my recommendation is that the council approve the contract as presented with the one contingency that the 5 administrative questions that I have are answered before the mayor or I sign this.
Yeah, I make that motion that we accept the contract with Tidewater conditioned upon the positive responses to the 5 questions.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And that concludes our agenda. The next is items considered timely and important.
Mayor, I've got a few if I can say.
Sure.
Just to follow up on Mr. Grant's concern, What is the latest update on the fire suppression system at the Hinton Hotel?
So I spoke with the Saga reps last week, and they have already found a system to put in place separate from the fire suppression system that's there, with some of the local vendors here. I'm hoping to get a date on that for an alarm system that would notify dispatch as well as the fire department for a fire monitoring system. As soon as I know when that's going to be installed, I'll be glad to share. It was very positive to hear that they had found a system that would call those locations directly because of the concerns around having an external microphone or audio or speaker or something that would blare in the area at odd times if there was an issue. At least this way it would be done directly to those on-call fire staff and or dispatch if they don't answer. As soon as I know when that's installed, I'll be glad to share that with the group, but they are planning on installing that system here very shortly.
Thanks.
Corey, is that a reporting system, and is there a suppression component to that system?
No suppression component. It is only a notification to dispatch as well as the fire department.
Another question. Current Coast Guard certification status of the harbor town
The ferry.
ferries. Anything going on there?
So at this time, the only update I can provide is it looks like we will do a launch for our 2024 season. The timing, if things were approved this month, would give us a very small window of time during the operating season. At this time, the most recent updates for us would be in the spring when we would see all of those vessels here. That would include the second ferry boat as well as the larger dinner boat style vessel. We should see the dinner boat here by the end of this year from the northeast harbors that it's currently having some hull work done on, but we're looking for a spring launch officially for that entire program.
And Corey, to be clear, the holdup is an issue between the manufacturer of the boat and the Coast Guard, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And so our role in that is to be as supportive as possible of the Coast Guard and thanking them for all their work and everything that they're being done through. But by this being a new vessel and a new class, there's no rock that's unturned, there's no T that's not crossed, there's no I that's not dotted. A lot of the work through problems that we're seeing, we're trying to correct in the second vessel before it's ever sent here to Edenton.
One more question.
Corey,
Yes, sir.
shopping center North Edenton, folks been noticing there's a lot of work that was done to the roof, to the inside. They paved the parking lot. Have you been in communication with them? And is there any way, you know what I might ask, is a grocery store gonna come there?
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you
can't
didn't.
just ask me, so I got to ask.
And Corey, has any grocery store expressed an interest?
So
I think the-
we have been in conversations over the last 60 days a lot with the new property owners as well as the bank. And a lot of the general public has saw quite a bit of updates to the exterior. When the group was here at the end of September in Edenton, we were told that from them and the bank that we should see pretty significant updates over the next 45 days. So if we think about that, that puts us into mid-November as far as the facade, as far as the parking, as far as the property itself. They have worked to secure a local vendor, or a broker, which are the property management folks that go after those type of businesses. We have shared with them most of our contacts with our Electricity's economic development partners. They have also shared contacts. They have shared most of the retail data for the broker and the property management or the property owner to start having those conversations. The grocery piece has been the top conversation. Do I know any particular entities that may become a tenant, not at this time, but they do understand the importance of the grocer being a large part of that shopping center and really that main anchor. They're going to work as much as they can to fill that space. But at this time, if you were to ask, is there a grocer coming, I don't know, but a lot of effort has been put into finding one.
Okay.
Who that is, we would maintain confidentiality in that until they're actually in place and the lease is signed. But it's very exciting to see the amount of work that they have done at that facility in a very short window.
They're spending $2.2 million.
Yeah.
I rode through there yesterday, and they were painting the parking spaces and also painting the poles that house the
The
lights.
base of the poles.
Yeah, the base of the poles.
Yeah.
I got one more question, Mayor.
Okay.
People are asking me, Corey, about the resurfacing project on Granville and Broad Street. I've been telling them DOT will probably hit that area in 10 or 12 months. Am I in the
They said
ballpark there?
in 24, I think.
It was an 18-month contract,
Yeah.
so I can't remember which street it was, but between Broad Street and Granville Street, one let in February of this year and one let in March.
Okay.
That means there was an 18-month window from one of those two dates, or one of those 2 months on either of those two roads for the work to be done.
So within 10 or 12 months?
I would say
Yeah.
that's reasonable, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more question, Corey. I know there's a lot of interest in the proposed apartment building, the Beechwood Apartments. Can you give us an update on where that stands at this point?
At this time, we're trying to work out timing for us to host an actual town hall or public comment session so we can get all that together. That date has not been set yet. We would like to advertise that correctly, make sure that we get as many of the folks from the general public that would like to come in and speak on or against that project. That way we can try to look at what our community needs are and what the concerns are. The date hasn't been set. We tried to work through that some this week, unsuccessfully. That would be with the council and the residents of our town. I think at that point, that's when we would reach back out to Saga and share with them what we found, what our concerns are, what our citizens have brought to us, and try to provide some answers as to why these are key things for us to address before we ever bring that back here for the major special use permit approval. I mean, those things need to be addressed before we ever get back to that point.
Yeah.
Well, and I would like to see new drawings. I mean, I think we have to have everything nailed down with fines and penalties that we've been through this
Right.
process before, and I mean, I just.
What we saw was
I
pretty
think
scarce.
I think they need to come back to us with something different before we even bring people in, because, I mean, it just wasn't good enough.
And I did, in speaking with them this past week, request elevations be
Yeah, because I mean, I also
submitted.
have people can comment on something they don't know, when they don't have any way to know what it looks like, what it's, is it gonna be, what type of housing is it gonna be, and what's in place to make sure that if we pass it, they build it. We've been there before, once or twice. I mean,
But you do know that in Dare County and Manio, they are suing this group for failure to produce what they committed to do. They were supposed to be building, and they haven't done anything yet. And I go on record again to say, I wouldn't dare trust them to build a doghouse.
The credibility is shaky. The credibility is shaky.
Yeah.
It's worse.
They-
It's worse than
They've
that.
been holding the hotel hostage for 8 years now. And we gave them everything that they needed to do the job. They ain't even put a window light
Yeah,
in there yet.
and what they said last time is they just built it look like Edenton. Well, I mean, that don't work for me. That's what CVS said too.
Yeah.
They did.
That's what we got. And I think we need a whole new, just a whole new development ordinance at this point. I mean, if I were speaking for everybody, I would say we put everything on hold and then we get a new development ordinance, then we tell people to come back and make application with the new one, because that development ordinance allowed CVS to come in, and they sat over there, and they said that they were not gonna, it was gonna be taller, it was gonna look like something attractive, and, I mean,
Yeah, they
you know,
sold us a bill of goods.
we got,
And the landscaping around there looks bad now too, if you noticed.
yeah, it's just the weirdest looking building you could ever imagine.
You and hired our lawyers, if we come up with a ordinance like you said, talking about it, and they fall short on it, can we sue them?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Can we put a
Yeah.
clause in there
Well, we
like
can
that?
just tell them they can't get a occupancy permit
Okay,
until they bring it up to, you know, that's one thing you can
okay, failure to produce.
do. Yeah.
And one thing to note on that is we have started
Yeah.
looking into the process of design standards to expand our current UDO requirements. And Dwayne and I have been working on that. We had a call a couple weeks ago with an expert on that, and we found some local options that we want to make sure fits Edenton. And what's challenging for us is that a lot of what we're seeing are not laid out for some of the smaller towns that you see. These a lot in larger areas, and a lot of that is unrealistic for our area, so we're trying to figure out how that can be molded for what a rural area needs. But we would love to provide council with an update once we find something that's applicable to our area.
So you are going through the UDO and revising,
Yes.
great, because it's been a while, correct?
Yeah.
It's been, since we did,
Several years.
2019 at the,
I mean, but I think
Maybe.
we put our development
Oh.
ordinances in like 25 years ago or something.
it,
We might have updated them a little bit. but-
Wow.
but, you know,
That's a
it's
long
been
time.
A long time.
yeah, yeah. And it's time to revisit those, agreed.
Corey,
I have
real
two
quick.
things.
Oh, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead,
Corey,
Aaron.
Corey, real quick, and then I'm done, Aaron. Can we get a copy of the hydrology study that John mentioned? Just,
Yes.
I'd like to educate myself more
Yes.
on that.
Yep, I can do that.
And in the past, John's been very helpful, in the years past, John's been very helpful to the planning board with his knowledge on water issues.
Yes, sir.
So, do we have an update on the RFP for the neighborhood parks? That's one of the things.
The,
On the what?
Neighborhood parks.
Oh, okay.
that closes this Thursday or next Thursday?
19th.
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 So-
That's the bid, open,
That will be the date
Bid
that
date.
we won't accept
Right.
any more proposals. So
19th.
we've got a week and 2 days.
Gotcha. And then, with the new water meters that we put in, I think you had showed me a demonstration of it before. We see live when there's a leak, is that correct?
Those leak alarms are triggered within a 24-hour period, and you do get data back hourly to ping, so we can catch a leak in 1 hour or less.
So
Yes.
how do we notify the citizen? Is there some way to streamline it so it's not like a middle
I
person?
called this week on one.
You
They
did?
just call you up.
So it calls,
And I talked to several people that got them.
Yeah, so,
I can speak to that because they just called me this morning and let me know that my church had a small leak.
okay.
You know, it wasn't anything major, but took a look at it. So I got a call this morning around 8 o'clock.
I've been really impressed with that.
yeah.
Good, so it does notify you. I got a phone call this morning, I guess there was a leak at a resident's house, and they mentioned that, you know, I think someone from the town called. It wasn't like an IVR system that called or anything like that.
And we make multiple in-person calls. We try to run that down.
Okay.
Automated system is going to dial whatever number is there, and
That's right.
that's it. And if it's not right, or if the number has changed, then they're not going to be notified. I mean, we make multiple attempts to call in person so we can let them know what we've seen, when it started. I mean, we
Okay.
give them updates.
Okay.
And we do that every morning, first thing, when those girls get in. I mean, that's the first thing we're looking at, leak reports, to see if anything's gone out from that night.
Okay, good. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's super.
Anybody else?
I may have a motion.
Let's hear it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We are adjourned.
Hey, Elton, thanks for asking about that shopping center.